Hello and welcome to the IndieSider podcast where I play indie games and then interview the developer. This week I'm playing the Raw Fury published game by Clifftop Games, that is Cathy Rain, a point-and-click adventure game. The first outing from Clifftop Games, the creator of which has worked on such games as Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. This game was developed in AGS, the Adventure Game Studio, and I'm going to start off around halfway through the first day of the game where it gets a little bit more puzzlier. And there is some great voice acting in this game, so I may be interrupted by that. But this is the main character, Cathy Rain. She is a strong female protagonist who is trying to figure out what happened to her grandfather, who recently passed away 14 years after she last saw him. So I have this inventory down here of various clues and items I've already assembled, and I'm off to find out where he spent his time and who his friends were. So let's head on out and hop on my classy motorcycle. Oh yeah, look at that. I have 3 places I can go: the sheriff's station, the Rain residence where I just was, and the cemetery. So let's go to the sheriff's station. Vroom! Now I was already here previously, so these actors will know me. And you can notice that I can click on almost anything to examine it and find out what's going on.
A bunch of cops lining up for a photo. A medieval fortress near an ocean, probably supposed to be somewhere in Europe.
And sometimes there are multiple things I can do with a single item. Like let's say the desk, I can either look at it or I can search it.
Might be something
Probably can't search it while the police officer is right there. Same thing with the items in my inventory. For example, the cigarettes and the Zippo lighter, I can choose look at, think about, or combine, and I would combine it with the Zippo lighter if I want to have a smoke, for example. Let's see if I can do that inside the police station.
I prefer to smoke outdoors.
Yes. You should prefer not to smoke at all, Cathy, but that's neither here nor there.
Hey, Sheriff.
Let's talk with Lenny here.
What bum? The one in the cell.
Hey, Lenny.
Hello, Cathy. What's up?
We're actually old friends. We went to grade school together before I moved away, and I just recently made it back here. I have these 4 things I can talk to him about that I haven't talked to him about before. The incident in 81, I've already talked to him about. Now, my grandfather used to spend time at McConnell Air Force Base, so let's ask Lenny about that.
Nah, I don't want to ask him about that.
Or maybe not.
Hey, Lenny, do you remember anything about a girl drowning around here?
Yeah, I remember my mom telling me about that. I was like 6 at the time, though.
Do you remember her name?
Oh, man. Not really. I was so little. I think it was something with an L. Linda? Laura? Something like that.
All right, I'll keep looking.
Every little bit helps. I know it's not a Sheila or a Bethany now.
Nah, I don't want to ask him about that. Nah, I don't want to ask him about that.
So that's that. So this game, as I mentioned, was made in AGS Adventure Game Studio, as are the Blackwell Legacy games from Wadjet Eye Games. And those games, by Mr. Dave Gilbert, have a connection to this game, in that Dave Gilbert did all the voice acting casting, I believe, for this game. He was in charge of that aspect of this game, was all the voice acting. Dave and I were on a panel together at PAX East 2015. I consider him a friend. And although I have not yet featured the Blackwell games on this series, I have played them, and they are mighty fine.
Okay, I guess.
Sheriff.
Hello, Sheriff. Mind if
Talk
I
to me.
ask you a few more questions?
If you must.
I don't need to ask.
Okay.
Do you know anything about the drowning here in 1975? 16-year-old girl?
You have a memory problem? I told you I haven't been working here that long. Besides, even if I did, I wouldn't tell you. Juvenile cases are a sensitive matter.
Well then, somebody doesn't want to be cooperative.
I don't need to ask.
Okay, so I really need to go to McConnell Air Force Base, I think, to get answers to most of these things.
Good.
Now, why don't I have directions to Air Force Base? I thought I could go there on my motorcycle, but no. There is a guy in the prison, though. I suspect he doesn't know anything. I don't even know that I can talk to him about these things. I don't think those options show up when I approach him. But, who knows? Maybe he knows more than he is letting on.
Hey.
Hi there.
Yep. That's all I can do for him.
Okay, gotta go.
See ya.
See ya. Wouldn't want to be ya. Alright, let's head out here. Exit. And let's see where else I can go here. Alright, just went to the sheriff's station. Came from Grandma's. Cemetery? There might be a priest there. Somewhat of a pushy priest. It's raining. Raining cats and dogs. Alright. Kathy is just a speck in the distance. A speck in somebody's eye. And here she comes. So she is a sophomore in college when she got the news that her grandfather had died and decided to return to her old hometown to see what's going on. Hey, little boy. This is new. He wasn't here before. That's Grandpa's grave. This kid, though, what's up with him?
A little boy, maybe 5 or 6 years old.
And what is this icon?
Hey, kid.
Hi yourself.
What are you doing?
None of your business.
Huh. I like
Can
you,
you
kid.
tell me about the Air Force
You're not
Base?
here alone, right? Where's your mom?
Oh, she's around.
Is she in the cemetery?
I don't see her.
You must be blind or something.
I'll go look for your mom, okay? Don't go anywhere.
Whatever.
She's buried, probably right there. See, you can see the names. Elizabeth Parker. 1975, that's when the person died, but I thought the person died with an L, and it was a little girl. I wonder if she's here. No, that's Grandpa. Oh, Gramps. Just had to go and die.
Alright, this is the right date. Looks like her name was Lily Myers. I should try to get a hold of her family.
Ah, I see. Now what can I do with that information?
I should go look for his mother.
Okay. She's probably one of the tombstones, though. Just gonna check all of them to see if there's a woman who could be her. Well, let's see. If it's 1995, then that could have been her if he's 6 years old and she died in childbirth. But that would have made her 50 years old. No, 40 years old. That could be him, her, it.
A family mausoleum.
Can I enter the mausoleum yet?
No reason to go.
Not yet. Let's check some more tombstones, then go talk to the boy again. The boy. The boy. Oh, can't look at these tombstones. Alright, so that must have been her. Eleanor Foy, I think. And he's gone.
Kid?
Creepy.
Guess he found his mom.
Or he went back from whence he came. Alright, so I am going to have a discussion now. This week's interview on the IndieSider podcast is with the creator of this game. Clifftop Games is a one-man shop, although he contracted with a lot of great artists to help with this game, which we'll be talking about. Stay tuned for that chat, or if you want to listen to just the audio version without any of the game soundtrack, you can go to IndieSider.net, where you'll find all of these episodes about indie game development. I am going to be turning off the voice acting, although it is great. I don't want it to distract from the interview, so that will not be an issue. So thanks so much for listening to this week's IndieSider. Stay tuned as I continue playing Kathy Rain. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with the founder of Clifftop Games, developer of Kathy Rain, that being Joel Staaf Hästö. Hello, Joel.
Hello, hello.
How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Fine, thank you. It's Friday morning where I am, but you are... Where are you? In Stockholm?
Stockholm, Sweden, yes. It's 4 in the afternoon here.
Wow, well thank you so much for making time at the end of your week for me. I appreciate it.
Of course, no problem.
So Kathy Rain just came out on the 5th of May. It's a point-and-click adventure game that deals with a strong female protagonist who is in college dealing with some assorted family secrets.
Yeah?
I'm really engaged with it so far. It seems to be going over pretty well, but I'm intrigued because when I go to the website for Clifftop Games, the developer of this very polished game, I don't see much history there. It looks like this is Clifftop's first game. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes, absolutely. Before I founded Clifftop Games, I worked at a few larger game companies here in Sweden, but this is the first game where I have sort of a creative role, so yeah.
And it looks like you've worked on some fantastic titles, including Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons, another game I really liked.
Yeah.
Is this your first point-and-click adventure?
It is, yeah. I've always been a big fan of the genre ever since playing the classics back in the day. And I knew I wanted to tell a compelling story. And adventure games are known for being story-driven. And the genre is also kind of accessible for a writer and programmer like me, because you focus on the story rather than high production values and stuff like that. And another big reason for making a point-and-click adventure is, of course, the AGS engine and the amazing community surrounding it. So
you mentioned growing up with this genre of games. What were some of your favorite games growing up?
Full Throttle, Beneath the Steel Sky, Day of the Tentacle are some of my favorites.
Anything from Sierra Online, like King's Quest, Police Quest?
Gabriel Knight, the first Gabriel Knight. That's probably my favorite adventure game ever.
Excellent. Did you play the Anniversary Edition that just came out from Phoenix Online Studios?
I did not, actually. I've only played the original, yeah.
If you like the original, you'll love the remake. They were very respectful to the source material. They worked in collaboration with the creator.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I should check it out, definitely.
You mentioned wanting to work on an adventure game because it's easy to focus on the narrative. I would definitely say that Brothers, in its own way, was very narrative-driven as well. So what sort of unique opportunities are available using AGS for the narrative?
Well, it's quite easy just to make a game focusing on like dialogue and puzzles and such. You need much prior experience, and it's kind of easy to use the editor and everything. So I'd say if you want to make this particular genre of games, it's an excellent choice from that perspective.
Now, I think most people are familiar with the concept of game engines like Unity or Unreal. You're using Adventure Game Studio. Is that really the same thing in the sense that Unity and Unreal are, or is it something a little different?
It's very different in the sense that it's very much focused on this particular genre of games, and in particular sort of old school, low resolution adventure games. So it's definitely not as broad as those engines, and it's not as portable as those engines either. It's kind of difficult to do anything outside of Windows. It can be done if you're a programmer, but it takes some work to do that. Yeah.
Now, I've noticed a lot of games made in AGS tend to use pixel art, which is not only a classic art style that was very popular in the 80s, of course, because that's all they had, but also point-and-click adventure games themselves are a classic genre. They seem to be making a comeback lately.
Yeah.
Does AGS support more realistic graphics, or was that a conscious decision on your part?
Well, AGS does support high res, but it was definitely a conscious decision on my part, partly because I wanted to sort of recreate an adventure game which could have been released in 1995, and also because budgetary concerns. It's cheaper and quicker to do pixel art, basically.
You mentioned wanting to recreate a game that could have come out in 1995. This game is set in the 90s. Is that also a conscious choice to try to emulate that era?
Yeah, definitely. Another reason for picking the 90s is that I much more enjoy doing sort of this old school detective work, like digging through old files and listening to tapes, rather than just Googling stuff on my smartphone. So that's another reason for picking the 90s, but also like for personal nostalgic reasons as well.
Yeah, not only Googling stuff on your smartphone, but just even using phones at all. Like in Kathy Rain, you have to find a phone and have the number, which is very different nowadays when you just have a cell phone.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
I've done a lot of Agatha Christie murder mysteries, which are set in the 40s, and those would never work nowadays because the murderers cut the phone line. We're trapped.
Yeah.
Now, the game is also set in the USA, but you are set in Stockholm. Did you travel to the States to do any sort of on-site research?
I did not, actually. It's kind of funny that my game is set in the US, but I didn't actually travel there until we started promoting the game last year at PAX Prime in Seattle. But I mean, we get a ton of American TV shows and movies over here, and I also have 2 American cohorts at Raw Fury Games to consult. So I think I did fine without it. And also, the game isn't set in any like real life town or anything. It's a fictional state and a fictional town, so I didn't have to try to adhere to any like real life locations.
Did you get any feedback from either early in the testing or once the game came out saying this isn't quite what America's like?
I got some feedback from the guys at Raw Fury, but which usually like language stuff, grammar. In some occasions I use British English instead of American English and some stuff like that, but nothing huge, I don't think.
Because another, not quite point and click, but very similar game that I loved was Life is Strange. Have you played it?
Yeah, I have. It's amazing.
Yeah, and the script is remarkable, but in the first couple of episodes, the dialogue, it's more what adults think kids sound like.
Probably, yeah.
And so that sort of drives home the benefit of consulting with people who actually live in that demographic.
Definitely, yeah.
Speaking of which, the voice acting in this game is wonderful. Great job with the casting.
Well, thank you. I'm really happy with them. I really am, yeah.
Now you collaborated with Dave Gilbert from Wadjet Eye Games for that aspect of the game?
Yeah, I did. We got in touch through the AGS community years ago, and I've always been a fan of his games and listening to the commentary tracks. So I knew that that the voice acting process or the voice recording was sort of his favorite aspect of the development, and that he had sort of perfected that process over the years. So I figured it could be a good fit, and it ended up being that. Yeah.
Did he reuse any of the same talent from the Blackwell series?
I don't. Well, probably some minor roles. For instance, Shelley Shenoy, who plays Kathy's roommate Eileen, has played a number of roles in his previous games. She played the lead in Childlight, for instance, recently.
You mentioned that you are primarily a programmer and a designer. You got Dave's help with the audio. Did somebody do the pixel art for you?
Yeah, I have a number of people who helped me with that. One pixel art veteran called Shane Stevens, who is located in the US. He worked on a few other games like Quest for Infamy and Resonance. And I'm also working with another artist from Resonance called Nauris Krause, who made the backgrounds. And I've also collaborated with a girl here in Stockholm who made the character portraits, Tove Bergqvist. So 3 artists on the team.
How did you go about assembling such a great team? Are these all people you've worked with before?
No, I hadn't worked with any of them before I started this project. And I basically got in touch with Shane through the AGS community. And Nauris, basically, I saw his name in the credits on Resonance, and I reached out, and he was open to the idea. Regarding Tove, she actually went to the same school as me, so I learned about her that way.
Because you mentioned Quest for Infamy, I'm a big fan of Steve Alexander and his work. I'm sure you know him.
I'm not too familiar, actually. I haven't actually played Quest for Infamy. I know, it's a sin.
It's a lot of fun. It's a great sense of humor that guy has.
Yeah, cool. I've been meaning to check it out. I really should.
Now, in a lot of point-and-click adventure games, the humor comes across not only in the script, but also in the death sequences.
True.
There have been some classic deaths in Space Quest, and even in Shadowgate, which was recently remade via Kickstarter, they made it a selling point that they were going to be adding even more death sequences to the remake. Are there deaths in Kathy Rain?
Well, not in that sense, in the sense of sort of having excessive deaths or a lot of death sequences. And I would rather not confirm or deny any death sequences, but I can say that it's not I made a design decision early on that I wouldn't do anything like Space Quest or King's Quest where you have these sort of excessive deaths all the time. Yeah.
I would think that it's more entertaining to experience a game death when it's set in a fictional setting like King's Quest. When it's set in 1995 United States, I think that might hit a little too close to home, watching this very real person suffer like that.
Agreed. Yeah.
Now, you were working with the game engine, the Adventure Game Studio, which does support deaths, but there are probably some things it doesn't do that you wanted to be able to do in your game. Was there anything that you had a great idea for that just wasn't workable?
Well, not a great idea in that sense, but one thing that comes to mind is that you can't have characters walk and talk at the same time, which is kind of clunky from a cutscene standpoint. Usually you want them to walk and talk at the same time in some occasions. So I had to basically make them talk, then walk, then stop, then talk. It was kind of annoying. I could have reversed engineered it But yeah, I would have had to basically recreate the whole speech system from scratch with portraits, text, and voiceovers and everything. So it simply wasn't worth it. But that's one annoyance I can think of from like a pure gameplay perspective. Another thing is that AGS is quite, from a more technical standpoint, it's that it works quite horrible with like modern displays and such. It tends to be kind of glitchy in full screen. And we didn't really make things easy for us either with the 4:3 aspect ratio. That was kind of a pain to get working properly.
Is AGS still in development?
It is. It's very much thriving still.
So I imagine you probably, in the course of developing Kathy Rain, encountered some bugs that you then passed back to the AGS developers?
Well, actually, not really. We branched kind of early and sort of diverged from the main AGS branch. And by the time we fixed those bugs, they were kind of fixed in the main branch as well. So it ended up being sort of a patchwork where we sort of grafted fixes from various branches to get the game in a good state. So yeah.
Okay, so you sort of have your own flavor of AGS at the end of the day.
Yeah, pretty much. But for my next game, I will definitely start from the latest AGS main branch because it looks pretty good right now, I think.
Oh, good. As far as the plot goes, Kathy Rain deals with some somewhat mature subjects, whereas when I think about point-and-click adventures, I usually think about the games we've mentioned already, King's Quest, Space Quest, Day of the Tentacle, Maniac Mansion, which are all very light-hearted. Why the decision to diverge from that tradition and broach more mature topics?
Well, I think more mature topics has existed in that kind of genre for a long time as well. The original Gabriel Knight comes to mind, which I think has kind of a mature storytelling. But I wanted to tell that kind of story, and I chose this medium for it. I didn't want to feel constrained by tradition or anything like that, even though, well, like I said, I did try to recreate a classic adventure, but yeah.
So would this game come with a mature rating if it was rated by the ESRB, you think?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Have you gotten any feedback from players about that who have already finished the game in the 2 weeks it's been out?
Yeah, definitely. Most of them liked it a lot, but of course, with any kind of controversy or these kind of subjects, some people will dislike it a lot, and we expected that. So, but most people have been really positive about that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think if you try to design a game that pleases everybody, you end up with something very bland that will probably please nobody.
Exactly.
And so it's important for you to stick to your guns and come up with something that satisfies your creative needs.
Definitely. Agreed.
So you had another collaborator. You mentioned a lot of the artists and voice actors in this game. You also published it with Raw Fury Games.
Yeah.
You mentioned that they helped with some of the localization, but nowadays it's so easy to self-publish your own game. Why did Clifftop choose to have this partner, or any partner really, for publishing on their Virgin outing?
I see it more that they chose me rather than I chose them. I would have never had the guts to take the leap and do this full time without their backing, with all their enthusiasm and support. I worked with one of the guys at Raw Fury before I started doing this, so it was kind of a random chance that he learned about the game. That at that point was just a hobby project that I was doing in my spare time. And he pitched it to the other guys and they loved it. And that's how it went, basically.
Wow, that's very fortuitous that they discovered you like that.
Yeah. I'm really fortunate to work with these amazing guys, yeah.
Because as far as I know, this game didn't go on Kickstarter or anything, did it?
Nope, did not.
Wow. I met with David Martinez of Raw Fury at PAX East recently.
Yeah.
He showed Kathy Rain to me and he asked me if I wanted to sit down and play it. And I actually said no, because I knew just from looking at the game that I would like it, and it's the kind of game that you really want to sit down and get into. And I felt like 5 minutes on the show floor at a busy convention wouldn't be the best experience. Yeah,
in hindsight, it's probably not a good idea to exhibit these kind of games in that kind of setting. For those reasons that you just mentioned, people are kind of stressed, and with this kind of game you want to take your time, you want to explore, you want to look at stuff, and you can't really comfortably do that in that kind of setting. Yeah.
I mean, it is worth being at those events because it certainly put Kathy Rain on my radar. I don't know that we would be speaking now if I hadn't seen it at PAX.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah.
But it is a challenging environment in which to demo the game.
Definitely.
And you create a standalone demo of the game that people can download for free, right?
Yeah.
And how did you decide which slice of the game to show off in the demo?
It's basically the first part of the game with just some short exposition cut out super early on, which I felt was a sort of natural point to start exposing them to the game, introducing the world and the characters and the main mystery that Kathy is trying to solve. But the reason for releasing a public demo at all, it wasn't something that we planned originally at all, but we did that due to the amazing feedback that we got at PAX East, that the players who sat down and played the game, they all loved it. So we thought it was in our best interest to just release the demo and let everyone do that.
How long should it take somebody to complete the demo?
Maybe 20-30 minutes or so.
Because the website howlongtobeat.com says the full game is about 5.5 to 6 hours.
Okay.
That sound about right?
Yeah, I would say we have sort of two categories of players. There's the kind of player who likes to explore a lot and look at everything and talk to everybody about everything. And those players typically take maybe 8 to 10 hours. And then there's the players who sort of follow the path of the game, maybe use a walkthrough if they get stuck, and those players typically spend 4 to 6 hours. So yeah.
Does examining everything in the game for those completionists you described, does that actually affect the narrative or the gameplay?
Well, of course, every time you look at something, you learn something about Kathy. I mean, the way she reacts to things shows you her personality. So definitely, I think so.
That actually brings up a good question I've had, which is not unique to Kathy Rain, but pretty much all adventure games.
Mm-hmm.
When I tell Kathy to do something that she doesn't want to do, and she says, "No, I'm not going to do that,"
yeah.
Who is she talking to?
Yeah, that's kind of I guess it's breaking the fourth wall a little bit. Yeah. And she's talking to you, of course, but
of course.
Yeah, it's kind of silly with these characters walking around talking to themselves all day long, and nobody cares about it. But yeah.
Okay, I was just wondering. Now, you mentioned that for the next game, you're going to start with the latest version of AGS. Does that mean you're thinking about the next game already?
I am, but we're focusing on Kathy Rain and possibly bringing it to a few other platforms as well. I'm looking into it right now, but after that, absolutely, I would love to make another game like this.
Do you think it would be in the Kathy Rain franchise?
We will see. That depends on the reception of this game, I would say. If this game does well, I would love to, and I probably will.
Can you tell us what platforms you're looking at porting Kathy Rain to?
It's primarily iOS right now, yeah.
Because I would love to play this game on my Apple TV.
All right, cool. Yeah.
It sounds like Kathy Rain is going over well, and it's the end result of a lot of hard work by a lot of very talented people. Can you remind our listeners where to find the game?
Well, it's on Steam, it's on GOG and Humble. It's basically all the bigger digital distribution channels, so yeah.
Excellent. Well, Joel, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate everything you've done with Kathy Rain.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was great.